Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Mouthing Off with Mike Wrestling Podcast. And more importantly, welcome back to my weekly WWE recap show. Are you not sports entertained? And listen, I have to say, from Monday Night Raw to the Tuesday Night War on Tuesday night with NXT going head-to-head with Dynamite, and Friday Night SmackDown, I was in fact sports entertained this week on the WWE side. And we're going to jump all into some of the notable moments from this week's WWE shows right here on Are You Not Sports Entertained? On the Mouthing Off with Mike Wrestling Podcast. So we're going to start off the show with the beginning of Monday Night Raw. And Monday Night Raw this week was pretty solid. You know, if I were to give it, I'd give it a 3.8 gabagools out of 5. So really good Raw. Starting off the show with the World Heavyweight Champ, Seth freaking Rollins. And Seth was not wearing a crazy outfit like he had worn at Fastlane, but he was rocking the snowboard goggles with like the checkered jacket. And when I was watching him, man, I was having like one of those optical illusion moments when you stare at the thing too long and it starts to move. It had been a long day Monday. Seth is kicking off the show, basically putting over Shinsuke, that hard-fought battle they had at Fastlane, the last man standing match. And here comes the Scottish Warrior, Drew McIntyre. And it is been determined after a very chill interaction between the two when it was coming to the title and what Drew feels that he has rightfully earned / kind of deserves, and how Seth is just, you know, on a whole nother level right now, in my personal opinion. They're going to have themselves a World Heavyweight Championship at Crown Jewel in November. Now, Seth wanted to do the match right then and there, Monday Night Raw, but Drew knows that Seth is feeling a little down right now. The body's not feeling too great. The back took a lot of back shots at Fastlane from Shinsuke, so Drew opts to head towards Crown Jewel. But that does not stop Damian Priest from attempting to cash in his Money in the Bank briefcase. Attacks Seth while Drew's walking up the ramp, and Drew doesn't run to the ring to aid Seth or anything. Previous what we saw with the New Day and the Viking Raiders and that whole debacle, Drew's looking out for Drew. Dirty Dom comes running down to the ring with the briefcase, but Drew stops him, cracks someone with the briefcase, and then absolutely launches the briefcase back up the ramp. Like, this thing flew. Like, it had wings on it. So, good opening segment to Raw. High energy. Little surprise almost with a cash-in attempt. So, I like the way that they've been handling the Money in the Bank briefcase the last couple weeks, where Priest is starting to hint a little bit more and a little bit more about wanting to cash in and bringing some gold back. We know they lost the tag titles to Cody Rhodes and Jey Uso. Yeet. At Fastlane, but that is not going to stop Priest from attempting that cash-in. So I like what we're doing here. Now, Mommy Rhea Ripley has got her own problems later on the show because she takes an absolute vicious knee from Shayna Baszler. I'm like, this thing looked chef's kiss, like beautiful knee by Baszler. But before we get there, we have an awesome, I love it, Viking rules match between Kofi and Ivar. Listen, man, these two went out there and were told, like, yo, we need like 15 minutes and go throw down for us. And they did exactly that. This was a fantastic match for Raw. I would highly recommend going back and watching it. This will be your Mouthing Off with Mike match recommendation because I thoroughly enjoyed this. Ivar, let me tell you something about this guy right here. This dude can go in the freaking ring. Now, I know he is from Ring of Honor, went through NXT, made it to the main roster. They've been there for quite some time now in WWE. And I know that him and Eric, they can go in the ring. But recently, we've seen Ivar really get to show his in-ring capabilities. And this dude's hitting moonsaults. He's hitting crazy kicks. Like, sign me up. Like, we've got Bronson Reed next week against Gunther, which was determined in a triple threat on Raw, which saw Chad Gable, Ricochet, and Bronson Reed go at it. Another great match on Raw as well. So we know Gunther and Bronson Reed on the season premiere of Raw next Monday. They're going to lock it up for that Intercontinental Heavyweight Championship. But, oh, baby, would I like to see Gunther bumping his meat with Ivar, because I think Ivar and Gunther could have themselves like a 5-star, 4-star banger if you're a star purveyor. But Bronson Reed and Gunther, that's going to also be a big meaty man bumping meat match, and I'm here for it. Rhea Ripley, Nia Jax, and Raquel are going to have themselves a singles match. And they were going at it a little bit, ends in a disqualification. Everybody wants to get their licks back on Nia because she went out there and started beating the hell out of all the ladies on Raw. Tonight on Monday Night Raw, it felt like a reset for the women's division across Raw. Like, we saw double the amount of women that we saw on Raw this week than we had in maybe the previous week or the week before, for that matter. So it's clicking right now. So something changed, whether it's, who's in control of creative, whatever the rumors may state or whatever you read out there. I'm just going to look at it from like the product that I'm seeing on my screen weekly from just these last 2 weeks. There's been a drastic change in the women's landscape on Raw. Not as much on SmackDown. There's still some gaps that need to be filled, but it's a 2-hour show. So Raw's got 3 hours. So you can effectively book more women on Raw because you have an extra hour as opposed to SmackDown. But that's not an excuse, because NXT has 2 hours and they're able sometimes to fit 4 to 5 women's segments. And just last week we had like 4 women's matches, and I think like 2 or 3 segments. And then this week we had another great NXT with, the Tuesday Night Wars. So this week in WWE, especially on the Raw side, really good stuff. As for the women's division, starting to ramp up. We know that it looks like Rhea, Shayna, Nia, Raquel, probably going to be mixing it up, maybe for Rhea's title at Crown Jewel. Anything can happen from now until then. I'd like that to be the direction that we head in, but you never know with that kind of stuff. Michael Cole has to be one of the greatest ring announcers, commentators in WWE history. But over these last 2 weeks, this man has been coming at the wrestlers with super hot fire, I have to say. Michael Cole is joined in the ring with new WWE Undisputed Tag Team Champions, what I'm billing as the Main Event Nightmares, the Main Event Jey Uso, the American Nightmare Cody Rhodes. Michael Cole is cutting real deep. The questions that he asked Cody was like, are you afraid to face Roman again because of what happened the last time you faced him and you lost? Like, he was coming at him, like just straight cutting his ass up for no reason. I was like, damn, Michael Cole, you got that dog in you. And I have to say, it worked, because we got a great interaction on Friday Night SmackDown. So whatever this Michael Cole interview thing is going on here, it's working for me, because we got a great answer from Cody in this promo. Main Event Jey Uso's having the time of his life. Like, yeet, yeet, yeet this, yeet that. He's loving this. And I do not doubt for a second that all of the people that I have been hearing talking about with this Cody Rhodes and the Jey Uso and the Bloodline, like, they have no idea what's coming. Like, this story is just now heating up. Like, I'd say if we're Paul Heyman, bottom of the third, whatever he had said, I think SummerSlam period, I say right now we might be in like the fifth. I'd say like the middle of the fifth, like the grounds crews raking the dirt real quick before they hit for the bottom of the fifth. Like, that's where we're at right now when it comes to the story. So I think people just need to kind of like take a pump on the brakes, let things play out, because the tag team title run with Cody and Jay is going to be freaking fun. Now, we know that Jay Uso was traded to Raw, and SmackDown is owed a superstar. We don't know who that superstar is going to be. But I'll tell you right now, two guys who deserve and want a rematch for their tag titles, Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn, are out here, and they challenge Cody and Jay to a tag title match in the main event of Monday Night Raw. There's a lot to that story as well now, but we can't talk about that just yet because it kind of ties into what's going on SmackDown. I spoke about it earlier. Ricochet, Gable, Bronson Reed, fantastic triple threat to determine a number one contender for Gunther's Intercontinental Heavyweight Championship. Bronson Reed gets the win after Shinsuke attacks Ricochet with, you guessed it, some back shots before the triple threat can formally start. So Ricochet's already damaged before the match gets started. Bronson Reed hits a tsunami. 1, 2, 3. But even with a damaged Ricochet, Gable, Reed, and him, great triple threat. Honestly, it was a solid match on Monday Night Raw. That leads into our next match, which is going to see JD McDonough, or JD McFunko Pophead as Cody calls him, take on Drew McIntyre at the request of the Judgment Day, because they are not happy with Drew interfering in Damien's cash-in. Drew destroys JD McDonough. Nothing really more to say about that. Now, I said we were starting to see a lot more women on the show, and we see more women on the show. We've got Tegan Nox taking on Becky for the NXT Championship. Tegan Nox does not win the match, but Tegan Nox looks like $1 million. They're building something with Tegan Nox. Like, Tegan Nox was not on TV for months. She was on Main Event. Who's watching Main Event, really? Like, maybe I should be watching Main Event, for some additional context to some of this stuff. But besides the point, I've only got so many hours to sleep, work, breathe, live. I don't know if I could do it. The point remains, they're building Tegan Nox as another woman on the roster, and she's going to be in NXT as well now, it seems. Great stuff here. Becky, the GOAT. I don't want to hear any Becky slander ever. Like, what she's doing right now is helping so many women get airtime on Raw, NXT, and if she pops up on SmackDown, I wouldn't be surprised. I don't think so. She's a drafted Raw superstar. I think because she holds the NXT title, she can flip between those two. For that matter alone, because like I said, Raw's 3 hours. You could easily fit 1 to 2 to 3, maybe more women's matches, segments. You figure that out. The booking, not me. I'm just going to talk about it. The main event of Monday Night Raw, Cody, Jay defending the titles against KO and Sami. Fantastic tag team main event. Like, if I could have got that match commercial free, bless up, because it was a good match for me. Cody and Jay retain the tag titles, and that leads us into what's going to take place with that trade for SmackDown. There's a lot that happens on SmackDown. But before we even get there, we go to war. And we go to war with NXT taking on AEW Dynamite in the first in a long time Tuesday Night War. We're talking a full-on war this week. NXT, AEW Dynamite, one night for a head-to-head challenge on who is going to win the irrelevant ratings war. Yay, ladies and gentlemen. I don't do the whole ratings thing. I mean, look, the numbers don't lie. And if NXT got the most viewership over AEW, I think it was like 926,000 watched NXT at its peak and 620 something thousand watched AEW at its peak. So I honestly, I can't. I'm not the type of podcaster that is gonna get you, and I'm gonna say, oh well, that means that they're the superior show and they're the superior company. Look, WWE's been doing this for decades. AEW's been doing this for 4 years. Give credit where credit is due. If they're already in 4-year territory and they're already in the territory of, look, we're competition, we can draw viewers away from you. I see it as almost 2 million people watched professional wrestling on a Tuesday night. Who wins? You. You win. The fan. I win. You win. They win. Everybody watching this, if you're watching this, you won last week or this week, whatever. It's like 1:30 in the morning where I'm at, and I am burning the fuel. The point remains. Look, almost 2 million people watch wrestling on a Tuesday night. When can you say that that is something that has happened? Like, besides the Monday Night Wars and, maybe when NXT was on Wednesdays. NXT got blown out every week by Dynamite. Did that stop NXT from continuing to evolve and have a product that is, I think, some of the best sports entertainment wrestling on a Tuesday night? Yeah, absolutely. And that's the thing that AEW, I feel, is getting caught up in is that they're trying to compete and they're way more focused on what they're doing than what they're doing at AEW. And I think that's the period at the end of the sentence. And AEW needs to hit a hard reset here, especially after this week. WWE brought in the heavy hitters for NXT. I'm talking Cody Rhodes. I'm talking the greatest of all time, John Cena. I'm talking the wise man to the tribal chief, Paul Heyman. And I'm talking Shotzi. And I'm talking The Undertaker. They brought out the heavy hitters. You had Dirty Dom. Mommy Rhea Ripley was on the show. You had Asuka. How could I almost forget about Asuka? You had like half of the main roster. Yeah, very bold-faced exaggeration. There was not half of the main roster. But you had star power. And then on top of that, you had what NXT's got, their star power. Mello, Breaker, Dragunov, Roxanne, Kiana James. You had the breakout tournament. Danny Palmer, Lola Vice throwing down one of the best women's matches on Tuesday night. There was 3 women's matches across both company. And the rookies, the newcomers on the block, threw down one of the best women's matches out of the bunch. NXT is firing on all cylinders. And Shawn Michaels deserves credit where credit is due. Cody Rhodes announces that after the women's breakout tournament concludes, we're getting a men's breakout tournament. Hooray! And for the first time since Cody's been back, he gets to announce the Dusty Rhodes Tag Team Classic is back. He's the special guest GM for NXT. So we had multiple announcements, and it was announced here on Friday night that Cody is back on NXT next week because he made one more match or has one more announcement that he wasn't able to make, but he made it before the clock struck 12 Tuesday night. So he's going to be back on NXT in some capacity this week. The opening segment, fantastic. Cody makes the match between Dirty Dom against Ilya Dragunov. Guess who the special guest referee is? Yeah. L.A. Knight. Yeah. You got megastar power now on the show. Great opening segment to NXT. And I will admit, I probably watched a good chunk of this more so than I watched Bryan Danielson and Swerve. And I was watching both at the same time, but this drew my attention because there was so much going on there. And like Bryan Danielson and Swerve, they were a slow start in their match. Their match didn't really ramp up until about 2-3 minutes after this. So it worked out perfect. Asuka, Roxanne, solid match. Great for Roxanne. Shotzi was out on commentary. She ends up helping out Roxanne because Kiana is going to get involved. Asuka ends up getting the win, as I expected, but Roxanne looked great in this, I have to say. Shotzi and Scarlett are going to be hosting Halloween Havoc Night 1. Love it. The two spooky girls, they actually have a ghost hunting show now. Shotzi and Scarlett's Chamber of Horrors. Watched a couple episodes. Absolutely loved it. It's super fun. And it's not like your usual, ghost adventure type shows. Like, they're having fun with it. You can tell they enjoy it. Pub rules match. Brawling Brutes, Tyler Bate taking on the Gallus Boys. Banger, dude. We had a bowling ball used in this match within the first 3 minutes. Table spots. We had someone go through a piece of wood with the two barrels, peanuts flying out. People were drinking pints. It was awesome. I loved it. Super fun. The Brawling Brutes and Tyler Bate get the win over the Gallus Boys. Awesome. The 16-time champ, the greatest of all time, John Cena, is out here to cut a promo, and he is interrupted by the meanest man on the block, Braun Breaker. Now, Braun Breaker tries to spear Cena. He gets out of it, tries to hit Braun with an AA. Doesn't happen. That's kind of hyping up the main event here for NXT. We get awesome backstage video package about Becky and Lyra Valkyrie, because those two are going to take out on each other for the Women's Championship in a couple weeks for Halloween Havoc. Tegan Nox trying to butt her way into this after losing her opportunity against Becky. I like it. Tegan Nox getting a little edgy, maybe a little heel vibe. And the family, my men, my guys, the Don, Tony D, Stacks, the Underboss, they got themselves a little interaction with the American Nightmare. They used to call me the Italian Nightmare back in my day, but, we don't talk about that anymore. The Bada Bing, Bada Boom Battle Royal is going to take place next week on NXT to determine the number one contender for the family's NXT Tag Team Championship. Where's the friggin' gabagool? Ilya Dragunov taking on Dirty Dom Mysterio. Special guest ref, LA Knight. Yeah. Fun match here. You knew that the Judgment Day were going to get involved. JD McDonough, Rhea, Finn. Ilya Dragunov gets the win. Trick Williams helps out. He grabs mommy Rhea Ripley off the ring apron, grabs her, and, holds her. Funny stuff there. LA Knight helps deter JD McDonough and Finn Balor. Dragunov looks like $1 million. This was a fantastic match. I loved everything about it. After the match, Corbin comes out, and it looks like things are going to be Dijak and Corbin going for Dragunov's title. Should be interesting. Corbin is told by Cody that he'll need to beat Dijak, and the winner of Carmelo Hayes versus Braun Breaker next week on NXT to earn a number one contender shot. And Nathan Frazier confronts Dirty Dom. And like I said earlier, there's 3 women's matches on Tuesday night. Saraya and Hikaru Shida, the AEW Women's Championship, Roxanne Perez and Asuka, and Lola Vice taking on Danny Palmer. And I'm going to tell you something right now. These two ladies, there's something there. They got something, WWE. Because these two, they went out there and they had themselves a nice showcase match. I'm not going to call it a banger, but these two had a great showing. And there was one point in the match where Danny Palmer was mid-air, and Lola kicked her with a kick in the chest, and she just flew Danny. And it was the best sell I've seen for a move like that. I thought it was a good little match here. There's obviously, some polishing up, but hey, iron sharpens iron, as they say. Vice beat Palmer. She's moving on in the women's breakout tournament. The main event of NXT. Carmelo Hayes, him, with John Cena, taking on Braun Breaker with, ladies and gentlemen, my name is Paul Heyman, in another chapter in Melo and Breaker's storied rivalry. Melo beats Braun Breaker with nothing but net, and I didn't think this was going to happen, but after the match, The Undertaker has shown up. But now we didn't get the classic Undertaker hat and the trench coat. We got the American Badass Undertaker coming out here on the Harley. Does the classic choke slam to Braun Breaker. Him and Melo have a moment after the show ends. Awesome stuff. It's great to see Taker. I will never, ever, ever say a negative thing about The Undertaker, because that man is the GOAT. He gave us 3 decades of awesome wrestling, character, all of the above. Nothing negative to be said about it. I hope that in the future, maybe we get The Undertaker as maybe like an on-screen character, kind of how like Mick Foley back in the day when he was like the GM of Raw, or the commissioner of Raw. Love to see just Undertaker down in NXT with Shawn Michaels. Just, yeah, remember when I, ended your career, bud? Oh yeah, dude, I remember that. Like just stupid stuff like that. Like Undertaker in NXT would be great just for like the mind that he brings to the game of professional wrestling. I missed opportunity here, I will say, last few moments here of the NXT segment. Missed opportunity to have Joe Gacy and The Undertaker have an interaction. That's just me. NXT, though, I got to give it 4.5 Italian hands, gabagools, whatever you want to call them. 4.5. When we come back, it's time, because the Tribal Chief is back on SmackDown. Don't go anywhere. Wrapping up here. We got one last wrestling show to talk about. And now, if you're not familiar with my podcast, if this is your first time watching it, I should have probably said this in the beginning of the episode, but hey, it's a good time for us to get to know each other. If you are not familiar with my podcast, I have a segment at the end of the show, and that is the final mouth off with me, with Mike. So there's SmackDown, and then the final mouth off with Mike. So don't click out of this episode before you hear my final thoughts on this week in WWE and in general with professional wrestling. And I do 2 of these per week. So when we look at AEW, you'll get a final mouth off on the WWE side and a final mouth off on the AEW side, / anything other notable going on in the world of professional wrestling. That's just how I do things. That's just how it works. So if you're new to the game, you're new to the Mouthing Off with Mike Wrestling podcast, now you know. Now let's get into SmackDown, because SmackDown starts off with the greatest of all time, John Cena. And before John Cena can really get a word out, the Roman Reigns party is here. The Tribal Chief, the Wise Man, Solo Sikoa are here. I have to say, if we are kicking off the show like this, then you know we're in for it tonight. That we've got Roman on the show, John Cena on the show, LA Knight on the show. We've got a tag team title match with Cody Rhodes, Jey Uso defending the titles against 8-Town Down Under, Mr. Austin and Aussie Theory, Grayson Waller. We're going to end up seeing Carlito. So SmackDown, guys, listen, fantastic. The Cena-Roman thing transitions into Roman basically telling Cena, look, you're not getting anywhere near this. You're kicking off my show. What do you think this is? Cena says, look, I'm not here to challenge you. I'm here to acknowledge you. And Roman's a little shocked. Like, oh, whoa, what's going on here? I haven't earned a title opportunity, he tells Roman. But this man has. You know who it is, guys. Come on. Let's do it together. L.A. Knight. Yeah. L.A. Knight's here, baby. And this man is unfazed by the tribal chief. He tells the man, you're pissing yourself now? And he goes, oh, so you must be Roman, right? Like, what? Love it. You guys have been clamoring for LA Knight. I have been clamoring for LA Knight. We got the Yeah Revolution, formerly known as the Yeah Movement, but that was too close to the Yes Movement. LA Knight says it in the interview. I saw it thanks to the Yeah Revolution Twitter page. Shout out to our mans. I'll put his little @ thing here, but shout out to the Yeah Revolution. That dude single-handedly got the backing of like 26,000 people on Twitter. Round of applause, man. Round of applause. Like, what a guy. And it's basically become like his fan page. Like, that's it. That's the Yeah Revolution. Even LA Knights acknowledged it. They've acknowledged Wade Barrett. It's been acknowledged in like MLB Tonight, ESPN. The Phillies were yanning it up the other night when they clinched to take on the Diamondbacks in the NLCS. It's worldwide. The guy's a megastar. And a marquee match against Roman Reigns is the next step. He didn't flinch. He was on the same pedestal as Roman and Cena next to him. One of the greatest of all time, and one guy who is in the conversation as greatest of all time. 1,138-day title reign says it all. And he stood at the same height, at the same level as these two guys in a short amount of time. Look at what all you got to do is just trust the process. And sometimes things just happen overnight, and it happened overnight for LA Knight. Great opening segment. It's going to lead into Solo and LA Knight in the main event of Friday Night SmackDown. Now we're going to get Carlito backstage. Absolutely gets destroyed by Montez and Dawkins. It ends up setting up Zelina and Bayley later on in the show. But in their SmackDown return, Pretty Deadly is back. Yes, boy! Man, I love Pretty Deadly. I love these dudes. There are so many people out there that I scroll, when I'm doom scrolling while I'm looking through the old X Twitter machine. A lot of people aren't a fan of Pretty Deadly. And then I see my people. I see my fans of Pretty Deadly, and I'm like, yeah, you guys get it. Like, these dudes get it. The music, dude, I'm vibing when they come out. I'm dancing. They got the disco ball. They're wearing these outlandish fits. Like, they got the crop top lingerie, silk see-through shirts, like wearing pink. Like, dude, I love these guys. I think they are entertaining, and it's like a splash of like those characters that you'd see in like the late 80s, early 90s of professional wrestling, like super colorful, super in your face, like massive egos, just massive characters. That's what we need back. We need to gotta bring some of that back into, wrestling, and they're perfect for WWE. Like, they are sports entertainment at its core. I love the guys. Great match, great in their return to SmackDown. They defeat the Brawling Brutes in a pretty quick tag team match. Zelina Vega and Bayley takes place. Once again, the women's division on SmackDown, they need a little bit more. But I will tell you, it's going to start heating up real soon, because they're hinting at who is going to sign Jade Cargill. Is it going to be Raw? Is it going to be NXT? Or is it going to be SmackDown? And I have to say, if I were a betting man, it looks like SmackDown might be the place, because we get an interaction between Charlotte Flair and Jade. And I'll pop the photo up here. But man, oh man, am I excited for Jade to hit the ring in WWE. Guys, been a fan of hers, AEW days, myself, my girl, we got to meet her at an AEW show. Like, she is so dope as a person, and like, she's got it, dude. Like, we, like, straight up, like, I'll flash the photo here from FanFest from Double or Nothing. She's so humble, she's so nice, and that's really what became, where our fandom started. Myself and my girlfriends, was because like we got to meet her and she was so cool, and we are like, man, we can't wait to see like all the big things you're about to do. She's like, oh, I appreciate that, like, it's so good to hear, blah blah blah, just small talking it up, but sky's the limit for her, man. Especially now in the WWE, you've got the training performance center. You've got the greatest minds of professional wrestling out there. Not to say AEW doesn't have great minds. They have as well some of the greatest minds of professional wrestling there also. Both companies, which is a shock about what AEW has been doing it to itself, shooting itself in the foot here sometimes. She's going to thrive. She's going to thrive, folks. Triple H, ladies and gentlemen, do I love this beautiful bald son of a gun. This man cooked it up for us here tonight on the SmackDown season premiere. Massive announcements coming out here. Adam Pearce, as you know, Adam Pearce has been the on-screen authority figure for WWE for quite some time. I think it's been like 3 years now. He's been hopping around between Raw, SmackDown. He's been doing work, and he has been battling all of the factions, the Judgment Day, the Bloodline. Hell, he even cut into Ronda Rousey one time. The guy is awesome as an authority figure, and he had a great run in the professional wrestling sphere because he was an NWA world champion at one time. Triple H puts him over for that, puts him over with an excellent job he's been doing, and gives him a promotion. He is now officially the only and current Raw GM. So a promotion for Adam Pearce. He is now staying on Monday Night Raw, and he will handle the business on Raw. And it's announced, which we knew there was rumors in the mix, that Nick Aldis, formerly known as Magnus from Impact, and as well, former NWA World Champion, and, if you don't know who he is, go back, watch his stuff on Impact. Go back and check out the match between him and Cody for the NWA Championship at All In, the very first All In. Nick Aldis, been in the game for a bit. I've watched him in Impact. I watched him in NWA. I watched, here and there. I'm not going to say I'm an expert on the guy, but bringing him into the WWE just makes me want to get him in the ring ASAP. I want to see him lock it up with some of the WWE superstars. I want to see him lock it up with Cody again. I want to see him lock it up with KO. I want to see him lock it up with Dirty Dom now. There are so many things that we could get with Nick Aldis now, but Nick Aldis is your new SmackDown GM. And I told you earlier that there was a trade that had to happen because Jay is on Raw and SmackDown agreed to it. Kevin Owens is now on SmackDown. I do not know how I feel about this. This was fairly predictable. I myself was sitting here looking at the Raw roster the other day, and I was like, who's plausible to get traded to Raw? And I said, well, they never specified it was going to be a male. Could it be a female? My first thought, Raquel. Maybe Nia. I didn't really think. Then I said, maybe not. They'll probably do male for male trade. So then I said, okay, who's a guy on Raw that's not really in a storyline that could switch to SmackDown? I immediately thought The Miz, Ricochet, Bronson Reed, but then Bronson Reed won the Intercontinental Championship, #1 contendership. Ricochet's now mixing up with Shinsuke. I then thought Chad Gable in the Outfield Academy, and I was like, no, that's not going to work either. Chad Gable's probably going to dethrone Gunther in a couple months. The only logical explanation was Kevin Owens or Sami Zayn. Kevin Owens is the pick to go to SmackDown. Now, this puts him right back in the mix with the Bloodline, the same thing he was trying to get away from. There's a big story to be told here because, look, Cody Rhodes gets Jey Uso to come to Monday Night Raw with the whatever sway and political power he has, and he says this, Cody. Now, Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn get an opportunity at the tag titles against them two on Raw, and they're unsuccessful. Now, Friday comes, Kevin Owens is traded to SmackDown, breaking up his partnership and putting their friendship, through the course here between Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn. And we know their friendship, they're better enemies and they're great friends, they're brothers through it all. But you expected at some point that they were going to probably turn on each other. Maybe Kevin Owens turned on Sami because he was showing too much love to Jay. Now it seems Kevin Owens is on SmackDown. So how do you get back over to Kevin Owens and Sami potentially having a feud if that was the direction they're heading? Now, if that's the direction you believe, and I would probably give it, a 60% chance at this point, how do you get there? Well, guys, you got a Royal Rumble coming up in a couple months. Kevin Owens could eliminate Sami. Sami could eliminate KO. Could get to that point. I think they have something a little bit more convoluted playing here. But for the moment, there's a bigger story to be told because now it seems, had Cody never bargained for Jay to come to Raw, does Kevin Owens get traded to SmackDown? No, because that was the agreement. If Jay's coming to Raw, SmackDown needs something in place. Now you've got another story. Now Cody is the tag champ, but now he may have Kevin Owens on his tail because KO might be pissed and go to Cody, look, because of your antics and your politicking, I lost my partner and I lost my friend, Sami. So now I have no one watching my back on SmackDown and the Bloodline's here. And they got beef with me still and I got beef with them. So he could be blaming Cody for all this at the end of the day. I love it. I love it. I love it. I love it. And people are gonna hate this. I already see people complaining about it. I love this. There's so much more now you can branch off. There's 5 different stories effectively being told right now. You've got Jey Uso and Cody as the undisputed tag team champions. They now have sway. They can go SmackDown, Raw, and NXT clearly because Cody's going to NXT. So you got that happening. Because of the Jey trade, they broke up KO and Sami. Now KO's on SmackDown. Now KO could be pissed at Cody and Jey again and cause a feud with those two. Or KO is going to end up getting sucked into some sort of Bloodline shenanigans and start getting tramped out by the Bloodline again. Don't know there. Now you also have the story of potentially Cody and Roman again. And you also have the story now of what about Jey Uso and his brother and his other brother Solo. And of course Roman. Love it. So KO makes his impact by hitting Dominic Mysterio with a stunner. Also notable during this segment, I went on a tangent there. I hate when that happens, but that was some solid stuff. Kevin Owens hits Dom with a stunner, and on top of all of this, they do the meme. Now, I don't know if you're not familiar. I'm on the internet wrestling community. I hate it. I despise it. Please get me out of there. Please, I beg of you. But there's been a meme where it's basically like the Judgment Day, interrupting wrestlers, yada, yada. And they have a clip of Triple H, talking and looking from back in the day, from like the late 90s, early 2000s. And they have the Judgment Day song over it. Dude, when I tell you that tonight, and I'll pop it up here, they recreated that tonight and they brought the meme to life with Triple H talking and then Dom's music hitting and Triple H looking. I love them for this. So also Triple H references the rumors and the reports of crowd noise being pumped in with Dirty Dom segments. Also hilarious stuff. I love Triple H. He's just having a fun old time right now. Cody Rhodes and Jey Uso are going to take on A-Town Down Under, Austin Theory and Grayson Waller. Fun little tag team match. Cody and Jey get the win, but that's not the important part of this story. The important part of this story, ladies and gentlemen, is the face-off that we see between Roman, Jimmy, Solo, Cody, and Jey. And I think it's even more hilarious that in the middle of this whole thing separating Roman, Cody, the Bloodline, and Jey is Nick Aldis. Nick Aldis and Cody have got history. Nick Aldis, one of the best in the world to do it. So I love this. Subtleties. Ladies and gentlemen, subtleties. We may very well see the story finish. We'll see. Charlotte Flair, thanks to Nick Aldis and his new GM powers, she's got a match against Io Sky next week on SmackDown for the Women's Championship. And this is when we get that Jade Charlotte interaction. So maybe Jade screws Charlotte to set up that match. Fingers crossed, ladies and gentlemen. Fingers crossed. LA Knight, yeah. In the main event, taking on Solo Sikoa. Pretty fun match here. Solo and LA Knight, they battle it out, a little brawl. Towards the end of the match, Jimmy Uso shows up. He's going to interfere, but John Cena interrupts him, hits him with an AA. LA Knight gets the win over Solo. Now, not many people have beaten Solo, Jay and Cody, but you can now add LA Knight, to that list. SmackDown, guys, Shawn Michaels, Triple H, we are in good hands with NXT and at least SmackDown for that matter. Raw, we're going to see what the season premiere looks like on Raw, because I think if the trend continues, that next Monday's Raw is going to be fire, because the premiere of SmackDown was 4.8 gabagools out of 5 for me. And when we come back, I know I ran a little bit long, but the final mouth off with Mike, so stay tuned. Welcome back to the final mouth off with Mike. And on this week's final mouth off, I got one thing to say. I was thoroughly sports entertained this week. From Monday Night Raw, NXT, SmackDown, fantastic shows across the board. Shawn Michaels doing wonders in NXT. The Tuesday Night Wars, that's what we're going to talk about. There's a lot that I could say when it comes to the way WWE presents its product and then the way AEW presents its product. We know that WWE is World Wrestling Entertainment. And we know AEW is All Elite Wrestling. Why is it that the owner of AEW is more up in arms about a one-off head-to-head than he is about booking a cohesive wrestling show? I watched Dynamite. I went back and watched Dynamite, so my full attention was on it. Was it a good show? Hell yeah, it was. But were they billing it Title Tuesday and we had 2 title matches on the show? Yes. Case in point, did we see 2 title changes? Yes. Was it a good show? Yes. Was NXT a better show? Yes. I don't look at the ratings. I look at what I watched. I watched both shows. NXT was a better show. I'm not biased. Hey, WWE's been around longer. They know the formula. But if AEW went out there and threw on that similar type show, but their version of it, obviously not with the sports entertainment aspect and all the talking, that's fine. I can deal without it. I can deal with it. But if they went out there and they executed like they said they were and they were going to, then there was no need for Tony Twitter fingers. This dude went crazy on after everything that took place on Tuesday, just tweet, or XXX, whatever you want to call it now. NXT was great. Raw was good, and SmackDown was phenomenal. NXT was good, and that was a great show, but SmackDown, I thought, of the 3 was the best this week. So good. The fact that we've got Nick Aldis in the company, you talk to me 2014, 2015, and you say, hey, Eli Drake, Magnus / Nick Aldis, they're going to be in the WWE. Nick Aldis will be a general manager, and LA Knight will be shoulder to shoulder with John Cena and Roman Reigns in a top program on WWE. I'd slap you and I'd be like, you're insane. That's what's happening right now. So anything can happen in professional wrestling, ladies and gentlemen. And I leave you with this. Whether you're a fan of WWE, whether you're a fan of AEW, we need to remember why we watch wrestling. Because we love it, or we enjoy it, or it entertains us, or it distracts us from the monotony, the everyday of life that we all go through. We all have hardships. We all have struggles. And for some of us, it's more so than others. And for some of those people, they dive into wrestling. That's their escape. I'll be the first to admit that's my escape for a lot of my stuff. Hey, when I need I need to get the brain back to earth. Throw on wrestling, and I'm back. You can get me back. You want to get me back, out of a bad state? Throw on wrestling, and I'll watch it. That's my way. That's my way to de-stress. That's my way to, ignore the world. There's so much going on in the world today, Whatever your cup of tea is, just enjoy it and stop with this nonsense, with bullying wrestlers or trying to bully wrestlers on social media, and then, talking badly about the product and the company. Look, should the guy have went crazy and tweeted, Tony Khan? No, but clearly he's going through some shit. So, hey, it is what it is. Do you guys want to watch wrestling? Do you want to have two wrestling companies to watch? Do you want to have wrestling every night of the night? Every night of the week, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday? Because if you do, and if you're like me and you just want professional wrestling to thrive so that all of the people involved in the industry of pro wrestling can feed their families and make a livelihood, because remember, ladies and gentlemen, it's a job for them too. For some, it really is a job and they're just there to collect a paycheck. Some, it is a passion that is like no other. So remember, from your host here at the Mouthing Off with Mike Wrestling Podcast, just go out there and enjoy pro wrestling, whatever pro wrestling you want to enjoy, and just try to be a little bit kinder to one another. If someone has a different opinion than you about a storyline or what they think should happen or who they want to see be champ, hey, respect it. Move on. Hey, you want Roman Reigns to win and be a champion for 8 years? Great. I want Cody Rhodes to win the title at some point. There's nothing wrong with that. There's no reason to bash one another for liking wrestlers or liking the companies or liking whatever. But at the end of the day, we need to just be a little bit kinder to one another, because we are all in itself the wrestling community. So just go out there and enjoy pro wrestling. From your host, I'll catch you here for Mouthing Off with Mike is All Elite, because we got to go in depth with this whole AEW stuff and what I think personally could help AEW get back to its former glory. Stay tuned for that episode Sunday morning. And remember, folks, follow me on social media at MOWM_podcast. I'm signing off. I need to go get some sleep.
Mouthing Off with Mike. Mouthing Off with Mike. Mouthing Off with Mike.